we need to explore this concept more, that if we do a Make in India 2.0, we need to have a sovereign fund or a fund of funds expand the RDI model to go buy companies from outside India, bring them in, and get them into our ecosystem of technologies and Atmanirbhar Technology Forum. So that is an area where I think we need to work on, and that is where Make in India 2.0 will go.
You are on Bharat Shakti. I am Nitin Gokhale, and with me today is Anshuman Tripathi, a techno-entrepreneur, international consultant for emerging and future technologies, and someone who values deep technology for the use of Indian companies and Indian national security, and someone who's watched this space for some time, both in the US and India. Welcome to this program, Anshuman.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
So, one of the hotly debated topics these days is how has Make in India evolved in 10 years since it became a buzzword in 2015 or end of 2014, and where is it going from here? What's your opinion?
I think Make in India has evolved quite a bit. In fact, if you remember last year also on your event, I had said that Make in India has gone through an inflection point. Since then, it has gone through multiple inflection points and is now ripe for reaching its second Make in India 2.0, so to say. We have looked at maturing the ecosystem, and the ecosystem, not just of the entrepreneurs, but also the government ecosystem, has now understood and has started to appreciate the importance of it. For example, if you remember the Meher Baba competition,
which you had initiated, if I remember correctly.
So in there, the winners, the top three, obviously at that time everything was new. We used imported equipment. Some of it must have been Chinese. And last year, one or two of those companies were actually blacklisted by MOD, saying you can't use these equipment. So that's an inflection point, the very first inflection point. Why? Because they were using everything the same, those companies, but the government of India's ecosystem got matured, understood what were the challenges, and they said, you can't do this anymore. So that was the first inflection point. There are a lot of those components which are made by foreign companies, which are non-Chinese, so to say, and more from friendly nations. So that's why we went through that inflection. And now we are standing at a second level where we have to look at accelerating the pace of getting technologies into the country.
Right. But how do you do that, accelerating the pace?
Now, accelerating pace is an excellent and important activity. How do you do it? Is by using different companies which have already matured that technology. Acquisition and technology transfer. Now, when acquisition we talk about, we are looking at companies internationally and globally which are available for sale. There are multiple examples, and I've said that in many fora. We have now standing in a marketplace where there are companies with technologies that we can actually buy. Our friendly neighbor in the East has been doing that for a while. And many other countries have also developed their ecosystems by acquiring. Now, acquisition itself is in two parts. One is that a large conglomerate buys a company for their own vertical use,
specialization that they have.
And the second is an opportunistic buy. Opportunistic buy is, I think this is a need for the country, or this can help me make money in the long run. So let's go and buy it because it's on the market today. That opportunistic buy is done by private equity. Those private equity firms in the world over, we need a presence.
So that's one of the other requirements. Apart from identifying which technology to acquire, you also need people to back it up with the requisite fund and requisite deep pocket or pockets, where you can put up that money up front and then buy the technology.
You are absolutely right. So we need a way to have a private equity fund or funds or fund of funds or a permutation combination of that, which can actually go and bid. I'll give you the latest example.
Okay.
The latest example, last week it was in the news that Tata's has bought Iveco, an Italian company for the commercial truck business. Iveco also had a defense unit, which Tata's did not bid for.
And was it costlier or cheaper than
It was
the
much
commercial?
cheaper. See,
Okay.
so Iveco's commercial truck business was bought for $4.4 billion US dollars.
Right.
The defense budget, defense unit was for 1.5.
But Tata's didn't think about it probably.
I don't know, I can't speak for the Tatas,
Yes.
but when it went on the market, Bain Capital and KPS private equity firms of the United States bid for it. We need a private equity entity to be able to be in that marketplace and bid for it. Unfortunately, we didn't have anybody to even bid for it.
So, but that apart, I think in India, private money is always seen as very tight-fisted, or private funds are very tight-fisted. They are risk-averse at some point. Maybe better risk takers than government funds, certainly.
Absolutely.
But still not scouting around as much, as widely as possible. Like
That's
the others
possible.
do. That's possible. But do you then think that Indian government, given the fact that India needs technology, and the world is in a churn, needs a kind of government fund or a sovereign fund to acquire companies which are critical for India's development in technology?
I think that is a very important need of the hour.
Okay.
We have already started working towards it. Two parts I would say in here. One is that the government already made the RDI scheme, Research Development Innovation, 1 lakh crores for doing research development for deep tech. Now, in that deep tech space, we have to expand.
Okay.
It is giving out a fund of fund, which is in a two-tier model, where the risk part is on the side of the second tier, which is in the fund of funds model.
Sure.
So you're absolutely right. The sovereign fund direction has already been opened, but we have not gone outside the country. There are limitations. RBI and SEBI have some restrictions that on an annual basis, an alternate investment fund, which is like a private equity, cannot have an outflow of more than $1.5 billion on a first come, first served basis. So we are stuck. Now, if you go back in time and look at in the pandemic time frame, one of the jet engine manufacturing companies in Spain went on the block, and ATP Aero was the name, and they were making Eurofighter Typhoon jet engines and all. We didn't bid for it, but Bain Capital bought it for $1.5 billion or something like that. I don't have the exact number, but in that time. But if that is a SEBI restriction, how will we play?
That's one very big impediment. It looks
Yes,
like.
So maybe there's a clause somewhere hidden in the rule book which says for national security.
Waiver.
But yes, I am not aware of it.
Okay.
But we need to explore this concept more. That if we do a Make in India 2.0, we need to have a sovereign fund or a fund of funds expand the RDI model to go buy companies from outside India, bring them in, and get them into our ecosystem of technologies and Atmanirbhar Technology Forum. So that is an area where I think we need to work on, and that is where Make in India 2.0 will go.
Will evolve.
Will evolve to, because by starting from startups, we have a long way to go to be a developed nation by 2047.
Sure. And in fact, one of the things that we had discussed earlier, I think off the camera perhaps, the difference between MSMEs and startups. Many people use it interchangeably and think that they are the same. So please, explain to the people who are...
that's a very interesting point you brought up. Many people use MSME and startups in the same sentence. There is a difference in definition given by the various ministries, but those are complicated and they are like, you're
Yeah.
getting
Just
bowed down
simplify
in
it
the,
for
in the
us.
weeds. The basic difference between an MSME and a startup is based on money. Will a venture capitalist invest in a company? If yes, it's a startup. If he or she does not, then it's an MSME. The reason being, the venture capitalist is spreading its risk.
Right.
So if he or she goes and invests into 10 companies, he wants 2 of them
To
to
at
give
least
them a
succeed.
unicorn status,
Correct.
which will help him mitigate the other 8 or 9 which are not successful.
After all, he's there for profit anyway.
Yes. So you are looking at the possibility of scaling and giving you that 10x of return.
Sure.
MSMEs are not in that game. If I give an example, a company like Chayos or Starbucks and all would be seen as a Starbucks, or would
As
be
a
seen as a
startup,
startup.
yeah.
But if you look at a guy on the roadside or in a small cafeteria canteen making a chai wala dukan, that would be in an MSME. He might open one for his second son and one for his son-in-law,
Sure.
and have a conglomerate of this thing, but they will not scale. So MSMEs are those where the venture capitalists don't venture,
Sure.
and startups are where the VCs go in. So that's a fundamental rule of thumb difference.
Very well explained, because that is important for a ecosystem that has evolved or is
Exactly.
evolving.
Exactly.
And I think Make in India 2.0 needs to make that leapfrog.
Exactly.
From the initial tentative kind of approach that they had, whether we should go for smaller projects, whether we should tie up with people. So to make 2.0, Make in India 2.0 successful, and just to take an example, since India doesn't make jet engines and it is now a buzzword, or India wants to make jet engines, technology obviously has to come from outside. But if it is a joint venture between an Indian company and a foreign company which makes a jet engine, how are the MSMEs and the ecosystem going to evolve? How are they going to benefit? What do you think if that happens?
There is a big scope of contribution, because when they make something that big, there'll be all kind of fish in the pond, so to say,
Sure.
which will benefit. As the water level goes up, there will be all kinds. Now, in the technology transfer itself, I would like to first emphasize, what do you mean by technology transfer?
Sure.
Technology transfer in Indian context has been confused many times with manufacturing transfer. So we say technology transfer and now we can manufacture in India.
But that's
No.
built to print.
Build to print, it's like a variation of contract manufacturing.
Sure.
But then you don't come out with the next version of the technology.
Or there's no upgrades possible.
There's no upgrade possible. And in that, many times in the contract, critical pieces of the technology are withheld, saying, we gave you 80% of the technology. We already had 85% of technology. That 20% that you didn't give
Right.
is where the key was.
Absolutely.
So you kept the key and you gave us the lock.
Sure.
We can't open the lock without the key. So transfer of technology is a buzzword today, but we have to actually see that we get the technology. Now, if you talk about technology itself, my first question is, what is technology?
How do you tech transfer? How do you do tech
How do
transfer?
you do tech transfer, and what is technology? I was at a conference recently, and there were some professors, and I asked them this question: Sir, how do you differentiate between science and technology? I was shocked. Many people didn't know the difference. When scientific knowledge is applied to solve a real world problem, it becomes technology.
Sure.
Till then it is science. So now we need to know is, when we transfer technology, what all of the science do we go? How far back do we go? Do we go to the PhD level or the master's level or the bachelor's level?
Sure.
So at some point you draw the line. And whenever you do the transfer, somebody will say, so this part of technology we didn't get. So it is very important that we look at technology in totality, and we don't just get enough to manufacture, but to make the next subsequent, and you don't come back and say, sir, we can't make the next version.
Yeah, because we haven't got the technology.
We haven't got the technology. So going forward, technology transfers should be looked at in totality in a deeper sense, where it should not be confused with transfer of manufacturing.
I agree completely. But look at the irony that the Indian defense sector needs emerging and future technology. It needs contemporary technology.
Yeah.
And there is silos in which they work,
Yes.
the defense sector and the civilian sector. Whereas successful countries like the United States and China have had civil-military fusion. Maybe
Yes.
sometimes it started in the military domain, the innovation, and then it got transferred to civilian sector.
Yes.
In China, maybe it started in civilian sector, got transferred to military
Yes.
sector. How does India overcome this siloization, if I may use the word?
Absolutely. Very good. Let me introduce a new term, which I'm sure will be useful for your viewers.
Right.
You know about monopoly.
Mm-hmm.
There's something called monopsony.
Yes, of course.
Monopsony is when you have only one buyer. Now, Ministry of Defense is a monopsony.
Correct.
So when you have only one buyer, many people don't want to take the risk.
Correct.
I put a startup together, work so hard day in and day out, and then at the end of the day you say, sorry, this product didn't meet my spec. And doesn't have to be just on technology. It could be on just whims and fancy. Why? On the larger scheme of things, it doesn't fit my needs, it doesn't meet the strategic goals, or we have already bought something from a foreign, so there's an overlap. So there's a lot of risk.
Sure.
So I strongly urge people to use technologies which are of dual use.
Absolutely.
And that is what the
It spreads the
Americans-
risks, basically.
spread the risk. And you have a lot of technologies which you can actually have a dual use on. Now, apart from the dual use of the technology, it is also important that we look at having not just a collection of components, but we make technologies in our own country.
Right.
Because right now, if I take the example of drones, in many ways, we are taking components coming from outside, putting them together, which there's a phrase which is used, putting the lipstick on the pig.
Absolutely.
So we are taking technology. Now, many other countries have gone through the same cycle. So that's another inflection point for our Make in India program. If you look at countries like Turkey, when Bekar and all, they started to make drones, they were also putting together components from outside.
Absolutely.
Slowly and steadily, they started making those components internally. We are right now standing at that cusp where if you are a startup entrepreneur, the opportunity is not in making drones, but making the
Counter drones.
components
And the
of the drones
components, yeah.
and the counter drones.
Correct.
Very good point you brought up. Counter drones is the area. Many people feel making a drone is a good area. No, the drone phase is gone. Now the high tide is on anti-drone solutions.
Correct.
You're absolutely right.
Exactly. So, as one final thought from you is, if Make in India 2.0 is at an inflection point or is about to evolve, what are the futuristic trends that you look at, in terms of defense and, I mean, let's say dual use, defense and civilian, maybe in space, maybe in cyber. Just let's look at one or two trends that you anticipate that are going to come.
There are multiple trends which I see going forward. One of them, as I said, anti-drone solutions was there. Second trend is that we want to go into the weeds. We want to make those fundamental technologies.
Okay.
So there'll be a lot more work in fundamental technologies. And there will be a lot of people who will take a high risk in working on technologies which are dual use, in the sense that they will be outside the academic fora.
Right.
Because right now, many of them are either academic professors, and now that the ecosystem has come, the venture capital community has matured, the angel investor community has matured,
Active,
has become active. There are startups which have already gone through the cycle.
Right.
So now we are at the second or third phase of entrepreneurs who will be starting to look at these technologies to make the Atmanirbhar ecosystem more complete. So we are looking, cyber is one area as you talked about. Now there's a lot of buzz on jets.
Right.
Now, if you see, and I'll give a very interesting example. The Zomato founders were in the
Wanting
news
to go into
recently.
jet technology.
They said we want to go
Jet
into jet
engine, yeah.
technologies. They are interested in saying, okay, let's look at the ecosystem. How much time did the government spend? How much money can we create efficiencies in the market?
Sure.
And so there will be people like them who will come up and think big and, large or audacious goals.
Yes.
So those kind of things
Trends that you're
trends
noticing, yeah.
is what you're going to say.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to limit that to saying this sector, that
No,
sector,
of
because
course not.
all sectors
Are
are
now
fair
ripe
game.
for
Are fair game right
or,
now.
And about to evolve or maybe take a leapfrog. That's
Absolutely.
So that's a fascinating point at which we probably will stop this conversation. I'm sure we'll have more opportunities to speak specifics about defense technology, maybe in a couple of weeks' time. But thank you very much for the great insights as usual.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.
Keep watching Bharat Shakti, keep sending your comments, and of course, you know where to reach us. Our social media handles are visible to you, and we will bring to you such interesting conversations with specialists in their own domain. Thanks for watching. Goodbye for now.